Schedule a visit at MinuteClinic.com today if you've got a cough, sniffle, sinus issue, or sprain that needs attention now. In-person and virtual care 7 days a week. Minute Clinic at CVS. Services and appointment availability may vary. Other restrictions apply. Visit MinuteClinic.com for details.
Hi, I've got a prescription for diabetes test strips. How much is the copay?
That could take me a while to calculate. In the meantime, you should think about over-the-counter Contour Next test strips. You get 35 for $19.99, and they're highly accurate. For full details, visit contournext.com/radio.
Hey guys, has it ever crossed your mind, right, through this journey where you're just rediscovering food and your body and all of these like belief shattering things are coming at you in every direction, has it ever occurred to you, I think that this is a problem that needs my help?
Yeah. Or if you're just like, why is nobody talking about this?
Yeah.
And why are we like only expecting OBGYNs or endocrinologists? Like, this is actually basic information impacting people's life. Guys,
I know.
Do you ever have that moment?
Because if you have, maybe at some point, regardless of where you're at in your journey, you've thought like, maybe I want to help women with this problem too. And I think that's so common because this is such an emotional journey that when you go through something like this, it's so normal to feel like, I think that I could dedicate a portion of my life to making change in this area.
Yeah. Or even I think me in my previous job, I would have loved to have this information because it just was not available in the scope that I was in, like, the bubble that I was in. It just wasn't being talked about. It wasn't being talked about in depth. And so I just feel like there's so many women who are helping women, and this is actually connected. So I feel like I would have taken this course 1000% in my old job.
Okay. So what course are we talking about? Y'all, we're talking about a certification that we've created, because that's the thing, like Ashley was saying, there's no information about this, and people in the healthcare world, people who are personal trainers, wellness coaches, and people who just realize that like this is an issue that needs more coaches, more specialized practitioners in. If you're one of those people, we made the certification for you. It's called the Holistic HA Practitioner Certification.
Yes. I mean, I think we don't have to tell you guys this because this is your life. Like, this. But think of how many different symptoms you have and you've gone to somebody for it, and nowhere where they're like, oh, this is possibly connected to the root cause, and that's HA. And so instead we spend so much time and energy addressing these symptoms, but they're connected. I just think it's just wild. I think it's one of those things where it's like, everyone should take this because you're going to come across somebody who potentially has this. And it's just, I don't think that we even have the numbers of how prevalent this is.
No, we don't have the numbers, but you can look around, right? So everyone who has HA now like looks around and says, oh, I think that it might be happening with that person. If you're anything like me, you've straight up asked people.
Right. Or think about like runners, they're like this is just common in the running community. So what you're saying is that HA is common in the running community. You know what I mean? Like, what if a coach, a track coach, a running coach was like, is this common in my community? Like, this would be important information to have.
So we created the certifications for all of these people in mind so that we can talk about and help people help others with recovery from a practitioner, a diagnostic, and protocol point of view. So we've created it's about a 30-week program, and we poured our absolute hearts and souls into it.
Absolutely.
It will cover everything from, what HA is, of course, to give that important foundational information, but we are providing you with a coaching certification, meaning we are teaching you how to work with women with HA to recover their periods from every aspect of nutrition, stress, exercise, and any other factor that we've ever come across. We are putting in this certification.
Yeah, and like we're also teaching the science behind it, right? Because it's important that we understand why certain things are being recommended, even if it goes against what has potentially been prescribed as like weight loss solves everything, right? Like, but is there science to prove that weight loss doesn't solve everything? Yes, and we've collected it all in one place for you. Plus we have a lot of we interwove all of this in there of how to address mindset changes, right? That is not just enough to know the information, is how do you guide someone in making this change, right?
Yeah, I think when we get people ask us for advice, like, because people say, I think I want to become a recovery coach. And we're like, hell yeah. And they'll ask, but how do you actually make people change? Like, how do you actually get them to implement the advice I'm taking? Because like, you can know this information till the cows come home, right? Think about your own journey. You knew this information, but why was it so hard to make change? And so that is what we're teaching.
Yes. And also like all the different things that are related to HA that you may have not known. And so hopefully this saves your client tons of money, because they're not visiting every physician under the sun for all these different, many different symptoms. Yeah, we're excited, guys.
We are excited. So if becoming a recovery coach or adding this to your scope of practice, whether you're a personal trainer, a nurse, a doctor of some kind, like this information is probably missing from your tool belt. And if you are someone who wants a career change or is interested in becoming a recovery coach, really truthfully, it's something that probably needs to blow up in the space. Like it's probably, just like health coaches did, just like life coaches did. Like, I think we need period coaches. We need more people out here on the front lines, like helping these women and making this issue more mainstream. We've seen that it has been a way to build a healthy practice. So there is no shortage of this issue, which means we need other women out here with this information. So if it's something that you've thought about, it's probably worth considering.
Absolutely. I think it's one of those things that we're having to re-educate an entire, our generation, the generation before us. You know what I mean? Like this is massive re-education and introduction to body literacy, the menstrual cycle, what's normal, what's not normal, you know what I mean? Like what's just all the things. It's like, hey, if like we want this to be a normal thing that we talk about, then like there has to be people that are willing to just kind of like guide people through it.
Yeah. That's all we're asking. So check it out, guys. Go to the website. You can download the syllabus where we've given an outline of everything that we're going to cover. So you can kind of dive deeper into what we're doing, learn more about the program, how it's conducted. That's at thehasociety.com/certification. You can also book a discovery call and have a call with us and talk about whether or not it's right for you. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Hey, and welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast, an adulting advice podcast production. I'm Danny Sheriff, and this is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. Let's dive in. The audio from this episode is actually from a video on my YouTube channel. The channel is called Danny Sheriff. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It just comes with some visuals that help the story along. So if you'd rather watch versus listen, you can head there and watch my HA story. Otherwise, it works perfectly just as audio. So before we dive into the show, I would love it if you left a rating and review and subscribed to this podcast. This helps other women who are looking for information and support around HA to find the podcast easily when they start Googling and typing in hypothalamic amenorrhea into iTunes and the Spotify search bar kind of thing. Lastly, please remember that I am not a doctor nor giving you any medical advice. These are just my experiences with HA, and I just hope that they help you feel pumped up about recovery. So let's get into it. The day has come where I share my hypothalamic amenorrhea story. It's important for me to do this because a lot of girls actually ask me questions about my story, my recovery, what happened, or they just tell me about their story. And I can tell that the reason they're doing that is because they're looking for validation that they're not alone and that there are other stories similar to theirs. So first of all, to explain, hypothalamic amenorrhea, or HA, is where you don't have a period. You're missing your period. And it's different to primary HA, which is where you have never had one, common in very young athletes and girls who are just not developing at the normal rate. HA happens in women who have already reached full maturity. They've had periods before they've gone through puberty, and then it goes away. The reason I think sharing my story is really important, and the reason I'm going to go into my background about it, is because there are a few women out there sharing this story. And there are bits that you can relate to from different stories, but not everyone is represented in those stories. And I think what we really want is to see ourselves in other women's stories in order to feel like this is, I don't know. We just want to relate. So my experience with other women's stories is they had a history of eating disorder, they're high level athlete, were always super underweight, and they looked a certain way. They were really lean. And they also were typically endurance obsessed, right? Marathon runs, or, a lot of walking, a lot of time at the gym, on the elliptical, on the treadmill. That is a very, very common story. But then when they would get past the part of their background and they would talk about their diagnosis, then I was able to really relate, and I was able to say, like, yeah, that's me, or the mindsets that they were in. But aside from that, I was just really confused. Why do these girls have the same diagnosis as me? I've had the blood work by this point. I'm pretty confident. There's enough of our stories that are the same that I know this is what I have. Why are our diagnoses the same, but our backgrounds are so different? But all of their stories are the same. So I think it's really common to be orthorexic or eating disorder tendencies. I think it's really common to be very, very lean when this happens to you. But it's also, pretty common to have my background, but there's not a lot of people sharing that story. So if you see yourself in this story, I would love to know that I'm not alone. Please let me know in the comments. So I grew up a very normal life, great family, great friends, lived in the burbs in a first world country. Everything was good for me. I got my first period when I was like 13 or 14 in my very first year of high school. So things were progressing normally. Perfectly normally. And like many other women, I grew up thinking I could get pregnant any day of the week. I was on birth control a long time ago. I got off birth control at the age of 18. I grew up thinking I could get pregnant any day. And that's just to show you how little I really understood about women's health and period health. I played some sport like once or twice a week, like at school or on a weekend team, but that was really it. I was actually a lot more sedentary kid. I loved cartoons. I loved building websites. I loved drawing. I lived a similar life to the one that I live today. Then when I finished high school, I went to business college, and I learned how to be really great at that. Really great in a business setting. I love business. So there I am, going from less and less active up until the age of, say, 16, 17. And then I got my first job, and I really stopped doing any kind of exercise. So then around 18 or so, I started to notice my body change. When you're 18, you're just not 17 anymore. And there's quite a distinction. I gained a bit of weight, and so I decided to go to the gym. And I want to preface here and say, looking back, I had gained some weight, but I'd just become more womanly, more curvaceous. Perfectly normal amount of weight to gain. I was a little more curvaceous than my friends, and I think the comparison trap set in. And I just remember, I was trying on clothes in a department store, and they had like those terrible lights with all like the 360 mirrors, and it was just the worst. I remember it was so traumatizing for me. I really had an idea in my head of what beautiful looked like, and it wasn't it, unfortunately. And so then it began, going to the gym a whole lot. Started off at like Anytime Fitness, and then, quickly found out about like CrossFit and, 5-day a week, 6-day a week CrossFitter. And from there, I quickly found weightlifting. So the CrossFit phase didn't last all of that long before I really got into weightlifting and strength and conditioning. Well, strength, not conditioning. I loved the idea of getting stronger. I was terrible, but I loved it. So here's where one of the big differences that I found in my story versus a lot of other women's. My period health didn't decline with excessive endurance training. It was when I had started weightlifting that things changed and I noticed my period disappear. So this just seems a lot less common. Anytime I would speak to a professional, which we'll get to, they really were like, oh, this is more common in endurance athletes. It's very strange that you don't have a period. It will come back soon. It's fine. Like, it was very much shrugged off. And I think that was because, I didn't fit the mold in terms of my activity. So if you were not an endurance athlete, but you were doing more of just something else, I would be really curious to know. So at the beginning of weightlifting, I don't really know if I lost my period then or if I lost it right here, which is enter dieting. With the weightlifting and stuff, my body wasn't really changing. I have significantly changed my body composition over a 10-year period, but it's not overnight for me at all. In the early days, I really wanted to rush the process. So I started dieting. For a long time, at first, I really focused on food sources. It wasn't until I started kind of counting calories and macros that I really think that's when I lost my period. I went very low fat very quickly. I'm not going to say the numbers, but I promise you that it was low. It was really low. I think it messed me up, and I think my body is still angry at me for that today. So somewhere around there, I lost my period. In fact, I was quite pleased with myself that it was gone. I think I thought that not menstruating because I was probably so active was really cool. I have no idea why I thought that, or I think it was a lack of deep thought about it. But if anyone has any idea why I thought that was cool, I would love to get some insight into what my brain was thinking, because I can't put myself back there. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm working out a lot, and now I'm dieting, and then I start a business. I had worked in some amazing corporate jobs, but I just got the itch to try something new. I fell so much in love with the cafe culture of Sydney, and I opened my own shop eventually, pretty quickly, but it was amazing. So now I was working 6 days a week. I was training 5, probably 6 days a week, and I was dieting. So somehow, for some reason, I decided to go to the doctor. I think I was going to see him for something else. I've always known when you're at the doctor, ask as many questions as you can that you have, because you only see them so often. So I went in with a list and I added, why don't I have my period back onto the agenda? And he asked me some questions about my life. And I just told him what I just told you. And he asked me when the last time I had a vacation or holiday was. I don't think I knew the answer necessarily, maybe a few years. So it was funny. We spent most of that doctor session talking about how I could logistically have a vacation. Like, do I have anyone that works at a cafe that could run it for 2 weeks? And then he prescribed it to me. I think he wrote it on prescription paper. And then my doctor gave me a hug and then left. He didn't actually explain to me what was going on. I took a vacation and it was amazing. It was 2 weeks. I actually met my now husband on that vacation, but it wasn't really long enough for me to, really relax and recover. And also I was worrying about my business back home. I wasn't really that relaxed on that vacation, to be honest with you. But fast forward, I met an American guy. So now I needed to close my business down and I moved to America. So before I could move, we were doing the visa process, so you can't just like come the next day. I did an extended stay visit over Christmas, and then I did, I believe, get my period back at that point. That was when something clicked in my head. I had connected my first dot that chilling out and eating a lot of Christmas food equals period. Interesting. That's what that doctor was saying. But after that vacation, I had to go home and go back to weightlifting and go back to work. Like I hadn't like connected the dot that it just like blew my mind and I changed my life. No, I went back to my old life and I didn't get a period again. And I think the number one thing really was that I didn't understand why I needed to have a period. And so therefore, why would I care? It was just interesting. Oh, I know how to get it back. I knew I needed one to get pregnant. And that was a big reason why I wasn't on birth control. Because I knew like, oh, I don't have a period. I don't need to be on birth control. So I wasn't on it for a long time because for a long time, I just didn't have a period. No one talks about why you need to have one. It's stupid. So then I finally moved to the States and I was still training a lot, but I wasn't allowed to work. I was not legally allowed to have a job in America. I didn't have a social security number, anything like that. So I was just living this amazing life where I did train more because I had more free time, but that was it. Otherwise, I was like a brooding author. Yeah, it was amazing. So out of nowhere, there I am, living my life as a tormented author in a coffee shop on the coast of California, literally looking at a beach view. And they hung up on me. Right, so there I am, looking at a beach view. And I get so sick. I have like never felt so suddenly sick. I was like, I'm going to have to call Jake to come and get me. I can't move right now. And then the pain went away. And then I felt it happen. I'd just gotten my period. And then I connected another dot in that moment. Oh shit. Chilling out equals period. I was eating a croissant, looking out over the ocean, drinking a latte, writing about some stuff. Amazing. The HA Society is taking clients. Coach Ashley and I work one-on-one with HAers, as we call you, to help you figure out a plan and, of course, implement it and stay accountable. Whether you've worked with a health practitioner already and you just want to stay accountable and strategic with the plan that they've laid out for you, or you want to start from scratch looking at all the aspects of your recovery needs and to create a game plan to reach those needs, then we are definitely your girls. When you sign up to work one-on-one with one of us, we're going to go over your history, your biggest obstacles, ensure that we're taking into account your specific goals, and start making a plan to reach them. So those goals could be getting your period back, could be getting pregnant, could be getting back to exercise or sport, or simply working on your mindset around your body image and long-term recovery. We also can teach you the fertility awareness method. So if you want to learn that so that you have the skills you need to go out into the world on your own without fear of getting HA again, we have got your back. So our coaching packages are either weekly or bi-weekly and only a month at a time commitment. So you're not paying tons and tons of money for 5-6 months. It's month to month, which is awesome. Makes perfect sense for period recovery, right? So to learn about other women's experiences working with us and to apply for a coaching spot, plus ask any questions that you might have before getting started, just go to thehasociety.com/coaching. Okay, so enter my OBGYN. I was overdue for my annual. I'd never been to this guy before because I just moved to the States. And I told him while I was there, I don't get my period. And he was like, oh, it's very, very important you do. There's a lot of health consequences to it. This was the first time I ever heard that there were health consequences to not having a period. It was when I told my OBGYN that I do not have one. He prescribed me some progesterone pills. They're pills that help you trigger you to get a period. It's not necessarily fixing the problem, though, for some people who are like teetering on the edge of like, I only just have HA, like I could get it back really easily. It can kind of help kickstart things for people. But for someone like me who hadn't had it for a long time, I eventually learned that that wasn't going to be enough. I was like deep into HA. However, I didn't take those pills because I just believed in holistic approaches, and I know there's a healthful way to do this. I know I've been connecting these little dots, but that made me start researching osteoporosis. It's linked to brain health. It's linked to all kinds of things. The thing that ended up really confusing me, and the reason my research took so much longer than it really, really should have, was because of the amount of denial I was in. I knew I had this. I knew I didn't have PCOS, or I hadn't been pregnant for 4 years, and I didn't have a brain tumor. Because that's like something three doctors had been like, oh, there's the potential you have a brain tumor on your pituitary gland, and it's probably benign, but it stops sending a signal from your brain to your uterus. It wasn't that. I think I got an MRI. I think I did. It wasn't that. It's never going to be that. For like one person, it's going to, if that was you, please tell me in the comments that if you had a benign tumor that was stopping this from happening, please. So the thing that really confused me was that I was never really lean. I mean, actually, I had eating disorder tendencies by this point. I've been tracking my macros. I was eating super low fat, restricting binging, things that I hadn't done earlier in my life. But I never got really, really lean. And my theory to that is because of the binge and restrict, that I was never in a consistent calorie deficit to get really lean. But I was in enough of one frequently enough that my body was like, this is not safe, but I'm glad you're getting the calories. We're going to store those on your body. We're going to keep you fed and protected. But this is happening so frequently that we're going to shut down the baby making situation and your libido and everything that goes with it, which makes a lot of sense. So that's the part that I really wanted to share with women, is that you do not have to be teeny tiny at all to lose your period. You just have to piss your body off enough. When you don't look like someone who, should have this condition, and doctors are saying, oh, well, you're a healthy body weight, and if you just stop working out a little, you'll get your period back. And like, when everyone just kind of gaslights you and thinks this isn't a big deal for you, it's really hard to think that you deserve to recover. I didn't think I deserved that. I had experienced firsthand that chilling out and eating food would restore my health, but I didn't think that I deserved it. I didn't think that I should be treating myself with nourishment and rest, because I wasn't skinny. I wasn't thin enough for people to worry about me. And I really felt like if I told my friends, hey, I'm doing this thing, I would love your support, I'm going to be eating more and resting more for my health, that they would look at me in a body that, at least in my head, was like bigger than theirs, and that they would be like, what an amazing excuse to like eat food and be lazy. Like, that was the story that was going on in my head. So naturally, I wasn't ready to make big changes in my life. I wasn't ready when I had started learning more and more about the recovery process for this, or like why this was happening to me. I wasn't ready to change my exercise habits or my eating habits. I was ready to do like the other things, like eat some multivitamins and drink bone broth and try and sleep and take more naps. That didn't do anything for me. And while I was busy starting to do things that didn't work, I started a full-time job again. So I made it worse again. After many, many months of learning, I was now way better educated. I knew a lot more at that point. I knew I needed my period for a bunch of reasons, and I knew it was time to get it back. But it was a really long process. Like, I still had this internal belief, and I would swing back and forth like 50 times a day. I need to do this. Eat the breakfast. Oh my God, I'm so scared of this weight gain. And what if this isn't what I need to do and I'm doing the wrong protocol? Run back the other way. It was the worst. But I battled through this internal belief that I didn't deserve to recover with the support of my husband, some clutch podcasts, and, my friends. It was important for me to be really vocal and public about what I was doing so that everyone could get on board as well. Eventually, I settled on my own customized version of All In, which is a very popular process in the HA world, where you eat all the food and you do no exercise. Like, if you want to get pregnant, like now, you will go on the couch and you'll eat all the food and you will not move. That wasn't me, so I was happy to take a longer approach. So I went from weightlifting way, way less, walking a lot, doing yoga, trying to get in like accidental exercise by doing chores around the house. I mean, I was walking miles a day. I was doing like 2 yoga sessions a day. It was still trying to create the ritual of productivity and extreme fitness. And it was me trying to make recovery like productive. There are people who will understand this. Eventually, I did dial it down. Walking 4 miles a day is beside the point. And I'm not going to do fucking yoga anymore. But it's baby steps. It's so hard to go cold turkey. And I think that's one of the biggest struggles with AJ, is because you're telling women who are so driven, so perfectionistic, so athletic, that they have to stop and do the opposite. They may not live their life how they want to anymore if women's health is important to you. And you want them to go cold turkey. No, it's not going to happen. It's going to happen in baby steps. So if switching intense weightlifting to intense walking, you're beginning the process of dialing it down. And I think that that's basically what I did. So there I was doing everything I can to recover while battling with this whole question of, am I worthy or not? But I did push through that. I did have the constant dialogue with myself and with others that this is the right path for me. This is going to work. This is okay. I'm going to be okay. And yes, taking that time to reduce exercise, and when I finally stopped all of the quasi-recovery behavior, that's when my artwork Instagram started. I used artwork, drawing pictures of normal looking women, writing messages and creating posters of the messages that I needed to hear to help me through this time. That's what I started to do because I had all this time back now. And it was something that helped me when I was having hard days with my body image, with questioning if I deserve to recover, blah, 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 blah. I would just draw a picture of someone who inspired me or of the message I needed to hear that day. And this really helped me because it actually allowed me to meet and connect with a bunch of other girls that also had this. And this is where I started to realize I am not the only one. I'm one of many. Like 1 out of 8 chicks that follow me has this going on. So that's how it felt. So it was really, really helpful. And that's kind of why I'm here today with you. I have time now to have a YouTube channel and create content and do things that I actually do enjoy. I actually do enjoy doing this more than exercising. When that was taken away from me, it is still hard today. I do still have those thoughts that I want to go back into the gym and train all the time. But really, I am happier creating. That's more suited to me. So anyways, did all the work. I have the art Instagram, being more creative, living a more social life, all that good stuff. I got my period back. It happened for me by doing the thing, the all-in thing. But I did only get 2 periods because then I relapsed. The truth is, I thought after 2 periods, I was fixed, I was healed. And now I could start to work more exercise back in, because I was uncomfortable in my body. None of my clothes fit, and I wanted to go back in that direction. I wasn't mentally healed. And I quickly started cutting my calories again as well. And I knew as I was doing it, I was like, you're not going to get your next period. It's going to go away again. And it did. It didn't come back. My little brain, it didn't trust me. It still doesn't trust me. I'd come a long way from where I was before recovery, but exercise and dieting at that point was hardwired into me. I couldn't undo quickly what I felt like the world wanted from me, which was to be little and fit or something. I thought, okay, if you can just keep eating more and you exercise a whole bunch, but if you cut your calories, but you keep it super, super nutrient dense foods and you don't eat much junk, your body's going to like that and you're going to keep your period. And it just didn't work that way. It was gone. It was gone again. That's when I realized doing it alone isn't going to work for me anymore. I need someone else to keep me accountable. So I hired someone. I enlisted the help of a nutritional therapy practitioner, and I paid her money, so I had skin in the game. She created a protocol for me, which was super simple. It was like a few extra supplements. It was not drinking coffee before I eat breakfast. It was making sure I do eat 3 times a day, like no trying to skip a meal. We did that, but also I think she gave me the validation. She was the first professional I'd spoken to who said, yes, this is what you have, and yes, the protocol is to continue to rest and continue to eat food. And I don't think I'd ever had that straightforward validation. So I'm giving it to you right now. If this is you, you get to do this. You get to rest. You get to eat. You get to have your health back. You deserve it. It's not just for some people and not you. It's for you. So I had that validation, so I did the work. I got my period back again. We've been working with her pretty damn quick. Oh, it's getting hot. Ugh. So I'm now recovered. I've had a bunch of periods in a row, but I still miss them really easily. Like as we speak right now, I think I missed my last one. I started training harder and it's super, super hot outside. I don't think I was eating enough, just like, I'm super sensitive even still, but I know how to get back. I know what I did wrong. I've learned so much. Emotionally, it really sucks feeling like I'm just so delicate. Like I have to conform to a certain way of living for optimal health. Feels unfair. But like I said before, I do prefer this way of life. I just had to give it a chance. And sometimes, it's hard because I really did want to be an athlete at a period of time in my life. And I've had to sacrifice that. And that was a choice I made. And it's a choice most girls going through HA have to make. They have to make the decision to stop training like an athlete. It's a choice. You don't have to do it. You're choosing between your health and fertility or your athletic goals. And it's okay whichever one you choose, but make sure you choose the one that you truly want and understand either way you're sacrificing. That's it. I'm sure I'll post an update video and more stuff about HA now that I'm so very well versed in it. And thank you for listening. And I hope that this story has helped some people. And I hope that you can see yourself in this story if this is something that you need. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Please subscribe, all the things. Thank you very much.